Just this week, I have found myself saying, oh my gosh, I am being pulled in so many different directions. I cannot get on top of my life. What is my problem? I just need a little bit more balance. Then as I stopped to think about the words that were actually verbally coming out of my mouth, I started to remember this principle. What if when you are looking for balance in your life, you are going on a wild goose chase? Because balance doesn't exist. If you find yourself asking the question, how can I find more balance in my life? This episode is for you because we are going to dive in to what can we do instead of finding balance? Because balance, as much as we hate to admit it, is not out there. And you will look your entire life and never find it. So let's go talk about what to do instead. Life is full of difficult questions, experiences that leave you asking more questions and offer very little direction. You need a way to tap into your potential and have a roadmap to become the best version of yourself. Welcome to the Neuro Coach Podcast. My name is Trisha Peterson, and this is where we go below the surface into your subconscious to rewire the brain and finally align yourself with the person that God designed you to be. The only thing that you're missing right now is an internal connection between today's thoughts and tomorrow's outcome. So get excited. This one simple question could help you find the missing piece that you always knew you needed, but didn't know how to find. Well, hello, my friends. Today's podcast episode might be just a little bit different because I am actually stepping out of what I originally had planned for you today. Here we are on episode 9, and I'm already changing things up because life doesn't always go the way that we anticipate. And it is often in those moments when we are faced with something different that we feel like things are out of balance. And we start going through all of these things and having all of these questions like, what am I doing with my life? And why can't I just stay on top of things? That we really start to struggle with finding that balance in our life. So as I am recording this podcast, I am actually sitting in a hospital room. My 2 nieces have been staying with us for the last several weeks, and my niece, who is 11, ended up getting really sick, and we had an unexpected visit to the emergency room. And so I've been thinking a lot and having these own questions going through my head, like, oh my gosh, I'm just dropping the ball everywhere in my life. I just can't get my life together. And so I thought this would be a perfect time to share some of those thoughts with you and do kind of an impromptu podcast and talk about balance. So thank you for being here with me and talking about this because it's very, very relevant in my life today. So what is balance? When you are very young, and as I'm teaching my younger grade children, we talk about balance a lot. We talk about weights and scales and, what is the same. And so when we talk about balance, your brain, especially your subconscious brain, is going to pull those lessons out because you learned them when you were very young. You learned them at a time when you were very impressionable. And so your brain knows exactly what balance means. It means that everything has the same amount of time. Everything is equal. That, they are on the same level, on the same scale. And so when we talk about balance in our life, whether you're consciously thinking like, oh, I need to give the same amount of time to everything in my life, when you say, I just need more balance in my life, that's what your subconscious brain is thinking. And you will never, ever achieve balance in your life when you are looking for that level of balance. Whether you are working full-time and you are part-time mom, or you have your own business on the side, or whatever it is that you're doing in your life, maybe you're just trying to manage married life and a spouse, maybe you are going to school, whatever your circumstances are right now, we're looking for balance. And if you try to give the same amount of time to each thing that's going on in your life, every area of your life, you're going to drive yourself crazy because you just can't do it. There are not enough hours in the day for you to be able to have balance in your life. It's just not going to happen. So we need to find a new way of being able to feel like we can be on top of our life, feel like we are showing up in all of the areas that we want to show up, that we have a desire to show up, and not feeling like we're giving too much in one area or another. So I have this analogy that I want to shift your thinking to, because it's going to help us be able to figure out what we can do instead of finding balance. All right. So I want you to think about life as a symphony. Now, when you go to the symphony, there's a lot of different sections that are playing. You are going to have your woodwind sections. You're going to have your string section. You're going to have percussion. Even within the strings, there's going to be your violins and violas and cellos. And there are so many different instruments that play in a symphony. And this is exactly how our life is. You'll hear me say it over and over. You are not a linear being where you just do one thing at a time. We would love to stay focused on one thing, but you've got work and school, and you've got your family and your social life, and all of these different areas of your life. Each one of those areas is a different section in your symphony. Now, when you go and listen to the music that's played in a symphony, not all of these sections are playing at the same volume or the same intensity at the same time. They're all going to take turns. Sometimes one is going to be a little bit louder, and other times it's going to be a little bit softer. And when all of the instruments, all of the sections play their part when they're supposed to, they're loud when they're supposed to be, and they're soft when they need to be, this creates a harmony in your life. It creates a harmony in the symphony, and that's what we're looking for in our lives. We're looking for harmony in everything that we do, where when we are at work, we get to be at work. When we are at home with our family, we get to be home with our family. The problem comes in that you try to multitask. And I have totally done this, where I've been home with my kids when my oldest kids were really little. And I, at the time, was running a direct sales business. And I thought, I'm such a good mom. I'm teaching my kids the value of work so they can help me do, put orders together, or they can help me label things. And I was putting them to work. Now, is that a bad thing? No, I think it's extremely important to teach your kids the value of work. But is that work time taking over your time focusing on them and doing the things that they need to do? So there's a way to find harmony in all of the things that you're doing. And in a symphony, there are times where things will overlap, but there's going to be one dominant thing. So I've started noticing, as we've been in and out of the hospital for the last couple of days, and I have tried really hard to put my attention when I'm home, and I just get to be there. But I also have things that need to be done for my business, for my work. And so I've been trying to find what's the harmony in that. And so there was one day, this was actually yesterday, I was home by myself, and between all of the families nearby, I had 12 kids. Oh, sorry, I had one in the hospital. So I had 11 kids by myself. My husband was at the hospital with my niece, and I had some other friends that I had already committed that I was going to watch her kids while they were out of town. And so I had 11 kids by myself, and I thought, I have so much work stuff that I need to get done today, but I also have all of these kids that I need to spend time with. And so I said, okay, I'm going to spend the morning with the kids and I'm going to be fully present. I'm not going to do anything that I need to get done for work. And so I'm going to sit here and be with them. And then later this afternoon, after I've spent my time with them, I'm going to let them play games or watch a movie or do whatever it is that they want to do so that I can get some work time in. And so I thought, this is a perfect plan. I felt like I was going to stay in harmony, that everything was going to work out beautifully. Well, my kids know the intensity that we're going through right now with my niece being in the hospital. And so they ended up needing a little bit more mom time. And so I spent my afternoon when I was supposed to be working, I spent that with them. As I was getting my kids ready for bed and I hadn't gotten to any of the work that I wanted to, I started getting into this self-loathing of like, I gave all my time away to my kids and I didn't get to any of my work. And I was feeling really frustrated with my day, with the situation, with the lack of progress that I had made in the other areas of my life. And as I caught myself thinking these thoughts, remember, everything's going to come down to a thought. And so as I started feeling more and more irritated, I came back to this thought of like, I gave my kids my whole day. And sometimes we need to be a little bit flexible. We're in a very, very interesting stage of life. Having so many extra kids at our house, having one of them be in the hospital, it just isn't normal. And being patient with myself, last night as I was getting more and more frustrated and irritated at every little thing that was going on, I stopped and said, at this time when things are uncertain and maybe emotions are running a little bit high, this is the place that I want to be. And so I made a conscious choice that later this week, I'm going to have to say no to my kids when I typically would say yes, because I said yes when I typically was going to say no. Now, when we're talking about young kids, I think it's important for them to understand that there are going to be times that I put work aside because I know that they need me. But work is also very important for me to show up. Not only one, does it help pay for their food and their shelter and all of those things, because there's finances involved, but it also fills my cup. And when I am giving so much to them and I'm just focused on mom, I love being mom, but I am not filling my cup. I'm not out pouring into other people on a different level, which fills my cup. I know what fills my cup. And when I get to come and serve this community, when I get to come and serve my clients and my students, that fills my cup. And that's important for kids to see, that mom needs something to fill her cup too. And if I'm not getting that, I'm actually not a very good mom. And so then I'm not showing up the way that I want to as a mom. And we start to get this dissonance going on in our symphony, where even though we're showing up in the areas that we want to, I'm frustrated that I'm not showing up in other areas of my life, or I'm frustrated that I'm not making progress, or things aren't moving. And so we get a dissonance in our symphony and the music stops sounding beautiful and we lose that harmony. Even though I'm showing up as mom, it's not beautiful anymore. And so taking that time to say, do you know what? I love you so much. Right now, mom's got to go to work, or mom's got to go to the gym, or mom needs a night out. When I am not focused on filling those other areas of my life and I let that section go to sleep, so to speak. And what would happen if you were listening to a symphony and all of a sudden the percussion section just falls asleep, or they all leave because you're just not utilizing them, and this is now a waste of their time. And you try to have a dramatic moment in your symphony, in this beautiful song, and there's no percussion to bring that intensity. Or maybe you let the violins, you just don't use the violin section on, and they end up boycotting and you lose your entire violin section. Now, where is the beauty in a symphony that is missing one of these sections? Every area of your life is extremely important, and you need to have time in each of them. Sometimes it comes down to honoring the commitments that you've made. You've made those commitments to yourself. You've made those commitments to other people. And sometimes you've made those commitments to God, that this is something that I promise that I'm going to do. And when we teach our children, I've made a commitment, and so I can't do that right now, but I would love to help you another time. I would love to play that game with you another time. Your kids need to hear no. There are areas in your life that you cannot give 100%. I want you to be attentive and focused when you're in those areas, but you're never going to be able to give 100% in every area of your life, because there's not enough of you to go around. There's not enough time in the day to go through all of these things. But I do want you to have harmony. I do want you to show up your very best. But when you're neglecting a section in your symphony, you're not going to be able to play your best. You're going to be missing something, and you're going to start feeling that. You're not going to be showing up the way that you want to when you're at work. If you are at work and you're constantly thinking about what's going on at home, and you're so stressed about all the things that's going on there, you're not showing up at work. You're not giving your very best, because there is something that's playing really loud. Look at the things in your life that you've made a commitment to. Look at the things where you want to be showing up, and start to recognize, how can we play in harmony? How can we get the symphony of life to play together in harmony? Because balance in our life in 2022, balance is not going to ever happen. We have too many things on our plate. We have too many things that are distracting us, and too many things that are pulling for our attention for us ever to find balance. So we're going to throw balance out the window. And I want you to give yourself permission to have harmony. That may mean you're giving more of your time to work. That may mean that you're giving more of your time to your family. It depends on where you are in your life right now and the areas that are pulling at you. If you can start to see, this is where I need to show up. This is what I need to get done. This is where I have committed to be. Now we can start to see things just a little bit differently. And we can start to see that you can have a beautiful music that comes from your life. Your symphony can be absolutely glorious in everything that you're doing. But we have to learn to find that harmony. So what are some ways that you can do that? I talked about one of them already. I talked about saying no sometimes and saying yes other times. Sometimes you may need to be a little bit late to something because you're going to say yes to your children. So learning when to say yes, when to say no. That's your first step in really learning how to find harmony in everything that you're doing. The second thing that I would recommend as you're trying to find harmony in your symphony is to understand how loud each section needs to play. So when you are at work, find ways to be at work. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can do this, Because we are not linear beings and we don't just think about work, when we've got all of these things going on, maybe in your home or in your marriage or with your children, or, you've got all of these other areas that are pulling at you when you're supposed to be at work, take some time, even a 60-second break from whatever it is that you're doing, and just write down those things that are pulling at you. Your brain is going to try to help you remember. We don't want you to forget that you've got drama going on and how am I going to show up and what is that going to look like? And so your brain is going to play through these scenarios over and over and over. It's going to bring up things over and over and over to help you remember so that you can try to show up your best in all of these other areas. The problem is, then we end up spending all of our time thinking about the drama or the struggles that are going on outside of work. So take that 60 seconds and just jot down a few ideas. Jot down the thoughts that you have. Take the time to honor what your brain is trying to help you remember. And then when it comes up again, say, nope, I got it right here. I'm okay. I can remember this. I know how I can take time to work out all of those details, but I've got it right here. When you write things down, it gives your brain permission to let it go. It gives your brain permission to say, okay, I don't have to remember that anymore. I think I might be okay. And that is going to help you be able to show up better in whatever section it is that you're playing at that moment in your life. Then you're going to show up better. You're going to not be as quick to react in situations that are happening at work because you're already so flustered from the things that are happening outside of work. We're going to let all of those things outside of work simmer and kind of let the dust settle before we react over the little things that are happening at work. That's how you allow that work section to play louder. Now, the same thing is going to go when you are at home or if you're out on the night or, whatever other section that you're playing in. If you are, let's say you're out on a date with your spouse and all you can think about is work. All you talk about is work. Well, that's where you spend a lot of your time, a lot of your day. And so we end up spending all of our connection time with your spouse or on a date or whatever. You spend all of that time focused on another section of your life. Take those things and let work be at work. Write things down. A lot of times when we are thinking about work so much, it's because there's a project that needs to be done or there's drama going on and so was saying this about that person and all of those things happen. Same principle applies. Write those things down because if you can write those things down, give your brain permission to stop thinking about them, then you're going to show up and allow this new section that you're currently in to be the dominating section. You're going to give that other section outside of work time to shine. You're going to let that be louder. Your connections are going to be deeper. You're going to feel more fulfilled and more pleasure when you're showing up in those areas because you're allowing this harmony to take place and you're not having one section that's overpowering the other. So I hope that as you are listening to this, you've started to identify what are the different sections that you have in your life. For me, I have work, I have school because I'm homeschooling all of my children, and I also have my own social life. I have my marriage. I've got all of these different sections, and I'm never going to find balance between all of them. But I can allow them time to shine, to take their moment in the spotlight, to play to their heart's content, where I can be fulfilled in the amount of time that I'm able to give each of these. I would love for you to take a moment, write down the different sections that you have in your life. You can even label them if you want to. This one is the violin section, and this one's the percussion section, and this is the woodwinds. You can label them if you want to. You don't have to, but that makes it kind of fun, and it gives you a great visual for you to be able to see how can these all play in harmony. And just because you're focusing on your woodwind section doesn't mean that the string section is going to stop playing and it's going to go away. They're still important pieces of the music that you are building in your life. They're just not quite as loud. Give yourself permission to have every area of your life start to play together in this beautiful ballad that you are creating called life. Don't you love the power of your brain? It is so amazing. If you found this episode helpful in any way, send us a review, give it some stars, and cheer us on. I make a point to read everything that you sent in because, believe it or not, your words are powerful and they make a difference, not only to me, but anyone who stumbles upon this podcast. So thank you for your love and encouragement. And in case you forgot, you're more exceptional than you think. You're stronger and braver than you allow yourself to feel. And what you are contributing right now means more to the people in your life than you will ever know. Today's going to be a great day. So thanks for diving in deep with me. And I'll see you next week on another amazing episode of the Neuro Coach Podcast.